Hi guys, Geeju64 here, and today we are going to talk about... Okay, today... Are we done? Seriously?
Why so serious?
Today we're going to talk about Joker. Hope y'all are ready for the truth.
Geek.
True. 64.
Geek. Truth.
Geek.
Round 6-4. Oh, shit.
This movie has caused so much controversy before it even released, but I'm not going to waste time talking about it because it is a non-traversy, a non-controversy. This is something I determined before seeing the movie, and I certainly believe it after watching the movie. With that addressed, let's get down to the review, and as always, this is spoiler-free. So, we're going to start off with what is great about this movie, before moving on to some things I think really weigh it down from being as great as it could have been. But to begin with, the first and most important thing about this movie is Joaquin Phoenix. He is truly amazing in this role. I never would have thought that there'd be a Joker on par with what Heath Ledger did with the character in Dark Knight. Of course, this is a much different take and is great for entirely different reasons than what Ledger did with Joker, because Joaquin Phoenix plays Arthur Fleck, who works for a clown company. He takes care of his mother and has regular visits to a psychiatrist where he gets meds to cope with a multitude of mental illnesses. What we get in this movie is a real descent for this guy into being the Joker, and I can't imagine anyone else in this role other than Joaquin Phoenix. He gives his all. He carries this movie on his bony shoulders. Seriously, I don't know how much weight he had to lose for this role, but he looks like a skeleton. He looks like Christian Bale in The Machinist. He looks like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
What's Batman precious? Got him. Got him.
Now, I'm pretty familiar with Joker's origins from the comics, and that his origin is usually pretty vague, and it changes a lot. However, it almost always involves him donning a red hood and ending up doused in chemicals, and he gets driven insane. That's pretty consistent. Now, I prefer the origin as told by Alan Moore in the Amazing Killing Joke graphic novel right back here, where Joker is a failed comedian trying to take care of his pregnant wife. He gets mixed up with the mob in order to make some money, and he ends up getting tossed into the chemical vat. Now, there's a whole lot more to it, but I suggest you guys check out the novel because it is amazing. But in this movie, they take a much different route, and that was actually really refreshing because I like the idea of Joker having tons of origin because it adds to his ambiguity. Because any of the stories could be true. That's what I like about it. They could literally do multiple movies with entirely different origins for the Joker, and all of them would be very different and unique. However, if you look at this clip from my most anticipated movies of 2019, you can tell that I wasn't really thrilled about seeing a Joker movie. It looks like it's meant to be a character piece more than anything else, which is interesting, I guess, but I'm not interested in it, really. I don't find the early images very engaging. If we are going to get a new Joker, it needs to be in a Batman movie, and it needs to be with other villains who he can play off of. That's actually something that we haven't seen before and is way more interesting than a character piece to me. But oh well, to each his own. I'll check out the movie, but again, I'm not that interested in it. And honestly, because of this opinion, I went into the movie with essentially no expectations, which is pretty rare for me these days. Like, trailers give far too much of the plot away, and everything is an adaptation, a reboot, remake, sequel, whatever. And there's always going to be preconceived notions of a film when it's based on any of those things. Now, one of the things I really loved about Joker was the setting. The setting was great. I love the look and feel of Gotham, as this is just a really dilapidated place. Now, it takes place in the 80s, 81, I believe, and as I've said many times before, I love period-type movies. I like films that take place before the internet age, really anything before 2000. I think it allows for a lot better storytelling, a lot more maneuverability for the writers, and it certainly adds some cool atmosphere that really matches Arthur's mental state as he transitions into being the Joker. The soundtrack is one of the weirdest I've ever heard. It is very unsettling in a strange way. It's like the wub sounds from Inception if ran through a malfunctioning synthesizer. It's not something that you'll be banging out to in your car, I can say that. But it does fit this movie to a T, really showcasing how disconnected Arthur is from the world around him. And that is at the core of this movie. The disconnect of Arthur from the people around him and his transition into lashing out at a society that he just doesn't connect with. Him becoming the Joker internally is what this entire movie is about. And there are some great ideas put to screen throughout this process. Some of the best scenes that I've seen in any movie this year. But I think it gets bogged down as it tells its story, which brings me to a real negative I had with this movie. So the runtime for Joker is 2 hours, which for most movies is an average runtime in 2019. However, the movie feels longer than that because of some unnecessary decisions in the first and second acts. It really just drags down the pacing. There were parts in this movie that I was bored. I was bored. After seeing Joaquin Phoenix dance for like the fourth, fifth, or sixth time, I wondered if they just shot Phoenix on set dancing and director Todd Phillips just threw it in the movie for reasons. I don't know. Now, there is a side plot that I can't really talk about without getting into spoilers, but I didn't buy that side plot for a second, and it really took me out of the movie. Now, this stuff is not outright bad, but it accumulates in the film to drag down the pacing. The pacing is the real problem here. A good 10 to 15 minutes could have been chopped off of the first act, and the movie would have benefited greatly from it, because there are just too many times I found myself waiting for something to happen in the first half of this movie. However, I will say that when the third act kicks off, I was on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going to happen. It was very unsettling and encapsulated the essence of what I wanted the movie to be. I think it just took a little too long to get to that point. Now, the movie is a slow burn. It really, really is. But as I said, it burns just too slow for me. It keeps it from being as great a movie as I think it could have been, because you never want your audience bored in the theater. And unfortunately, I found myself bored at many times in the first half of this movie. Now, the real strength of this movie is in its layers. The fact that you will think about this movie after you leave. For days after seeing Joker, I'm still thinking about aspects of the movie. Now, when I first left the theater, I found myself somewhat disappointed in it. I didn't have as much a desire to rewatch it because, as I said, it was very slow, and it's not the type of movie you really rewatch. There's not much that happened in it until the third act, as I said before. But when you start analyzing it afterward, you start to wonder what parts of the movie were really happening and what was in Joker's head. There's some real nuance here, even though there are moments that it just borders on being pretentious. Last year, Venom came out in October, and this year is the Joker. So maybe this trend of comic book villain movies will continue next October. I haven't looked at the slate for 2020, but it'd kind of be cool if they keep doing it. Now, while Venom felt like a 90s superhero movie in a lot of the wrong ways, Joker feels like a comic film for the coming decade. For better or worse, I don't really know. Everything's a matter of opinion, I guess. So to recap, Phoenix as the Joker is one of the best performances of the year. There's a good dreary atmosphere that sets an unsettling tone. It is a cool take on the Joker origin story, and while there are some great aspects of the movie, its pacing really weighs it down from being as good as it should have been. It could have benefited from a shorter first and second act. Keep the audience engaged. That's what this movie needed to do. In the end, I think I'll go ahead and give Joker 7.5 Jokers out of 10. This is certainly worth checking out in theaters. So have you guys seen Joker? What did you think? Are you interested in like me doing a spoiler video? There's enough content here to do spoiler videos for sure. Enough to talk about. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all that YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm Geechu64, and I'll always tell you the truth.